Good morning. 各位贵宾、各位老师们、各位朋友们，大家好，欢迎大家。Welcome to the 60th Anniversary Symposium of the Fairbank Center for Chinese Studies at Harvard University. I am Michael Szonyi. I have the honor to serve as director of the Fairbank Center, and I'm therefore your host for this event. I'm so pleased to have so many old friends and new faces here to join with us as we celebrate the completion of the first sexagenary cycle of the Fairbank Center for Chinese Studies. This event is only one of, indeed the capstone, but only one of a number of events that we are holding over this sexagenary year, and I hope that we will see you at other events over the course of the year. As I'm sure all of you know, the Fairbank Center was founded in 1955-56 by Professor John King Fairbank. It was originally called the Center for East Asian Research, and it was renamed the Fairbank Center upon Professor Fairbank's retirement in the 1970s. The geographic scope of the center has narrowed in its 60 years. From the Center for East Asian Research, its geographic ambition became smaller with the establishment of the Reischauer Institute, the Korea Institute, and the Asia Center. I know some of you are concerned that this geographic narrowing may continue. I should set those fears to rest. It's not my intention to leave as the director of the Fairbank Center for Quemoy Studies. We will maintain the current geographic scope. Despite the geographic narrowing, which I'm not sure Professor Fairbank would have approved of entirely, I do think that Professor Fairbank would have approved of the way successive generations of directors and scholars and students at Harvard have maintained the core mission of the Fairbank Center to advance scholarship in all fields of Chinese studies at Harvard and beyond. One of the geniuses of Fairbank was to recognize the value of studying China from a holistic perspective, including both the humanities, history, his own discipline, and my own discipline, and the use of the contemporary social sciences. And we try to stay true to that mission at Harvard today, and that's very much was in our minds as we put together the program for these 2 days events. One other area in which we try to stay true to Professor Fairbank's mission is by serving as a center of Chinese studies, not just at Harvard, but also for the larger Boston area. And we continue to benefit from and rely on interaction with and support from many, many colleagues in China studies in the Boston area. And I would give an especial welcome to those of you who are here today. So we've tried to stay true to the initial mission that Professor Fairbank established in the 1950s. But in many ways, of course, that is a difficult task because the world that we live in is so very different from the world in which the center was initially created. There were, to give just a few examples, and I will not run through the platitudes of how many miles of high-speed railway and so on, but to give you in China, but to give you just a few examples, China studies has, we might say, become normalized at Harvard. There are faculty studying China, or studying in China, or studying using Chinese data, not just at the Fairbank Center, but in virtually every school of Harvard. And we have, of course, our wonderful center, the Harvard Center in Shanghai, which serves as a focal point for our work in China. Another big difference is the number of Chinese students and colleagues who work with us here at Harvard. In 2015, in every single school of Harvard University, China was the #2 source of students. after the United States, including the School of Medicine, the business school, the law school, and so on. Those numbers, a member of my staff pointed out, are no longer true today because in 2016, the number of Chinese students at HBS dropped somewhat, and the number of Canadian students at HBS rose dramatically. As a Canadian myself by origin, I would like to take jingoistic pride in this, but of course over the last 40 years, moving in the opposite direction from China has not been a wise policy. So I fear that this may not be good news for Canada. In any case, on a more serious note, of course, the world is different in the sense that we interact and engage with China both as academics and as scholars, but also in our everyday life, in a way that I think Fairbank could never have dreamed of. It is clearly the case that the US-China relationship is the most important bilateral relationship of our century, and that if the two countries cannot get that relationship right, the prognosis for the whole world is very grim. There are important, central global problems and issues that can only be resolved and be addressed through a healthy cooperative relationship between our two countries. So this makes the role of the Fairbank Center going forward very, very important. And we conceived of this event. We were obviously going to mark the 60th anniversary, the turning of this first sexagenary cycle. We had the choice of holding a large, enormous international gathering, and we chose instead, my colleagues and I, to organize a smaller and more intimate gathering, in part because I'm very much hoping that we can use these 2 days to reflect on the state of China studies at Harvard, in the United States and in the world, on the role of the Fairbank Center in China studies and in the larger political and academic arenas. In other words, my agenda for the next 2 days, in addition to the wonderful and exciting work that we're going to hear about, is to have some conversations with all of you about the direction of the Fairbank Center in its second sexagenary cycle. I mentioned that we are holding a large number of activities over the course of the 60th anniversary year. I'll just mention one of them very briefly, which is the exhibition of paintings by Wilma Fairbank, John King Fairbank's wife, and her sister, Marion Cannon Schlesinger, and photographs by Sidney Gamble, which you will be able to enjoy over the course of the weekend out in the concourse behind us. I'd like to thank Holly and Lauren Fairbank and Marion and Andrew Schlesinger for the loan of the artwork and their support. I'll have more to say about the exhibition in my remarks this afternoon. But I will just say now that I am so pleased that we are able to continue the Fairbank Center's strong links with its founding family and to continue the legacy of that family in public education on China. With that, I will end my opening remarks, and I will now welcome the first panel on Chinese politics, chaired by a former Fairbank Center director, Professor William Kirby. Thank you all so much for coming.